Wow.
So then I gotta go back and look.
Audio test for Mr. Carantonis.
I'm here.
So.
Can you see the presentation, Mr. Carantonis?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You're good to go.
All right, we have returned from closed session and now Ms. Bagley will read us out.
The VRE Operations Board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge and with no individual member dissenting, at the just concluded closed session, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened was heard, discussed, or considered. I therefore,
We have to read out.
we have to do that roll call, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion.
A second.
Okay, have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, could you please pull everyone for coming out of closed session, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Bagley,
Aye.
Ms. Bomke,
Aye.
Ms. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Gary, Mr. Gordy.
Aye.
Ms. Hayes,
Aye.
Ms. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Carantonis,
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
And Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion coming out?
Yes, I move that we adopt resolution 9A-052024. This recommends authorization to extend the term of the operating access agreement with Norfolk Southern. It would resolve that the VRE Operations Board does hereby recommend the commissions authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a letter agreement to extend the term of the current operating access agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway Company to expire not later than December 31st, 2024. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, please cast your vote in the affirmative, saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Okay, Mr. Carantonis says aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, now we are going to go back to our regular agenda. We have some action items. The first one is recommend authorization to execute an amendment for the 5th year of the second option period of the contract for operating services for commuter rail. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as the recommendation states, and for the amount stated in the resolution plus a contingency, this contract amendment would, inconsistent with the approved budget, authorize me to amend the contract with Keels Rail Services Virginia for the operating side of our business for the fiscal year 2025. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Dalton? Is there a motion?
Move this approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Carantonis, how do you vote?
I vote aye, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item B, recommend authorization to execute an amendment for the 4th year of the first option period of the contract for maintenance services for commuter rail. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, and similar to 10A, 10B is for the maintenance services side of the contract. And recommendation for the amount stated in the resolution plus a contingency. And once again, this would, consistent with the approved budget, this would amend the contract for fiscal year 2025 to incorporate the said budget into the contract. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Any questions? All right, may I have a motion?
Moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this maintenance service contract? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Carantonis?
Aye.
He votes aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item C, authorization to amend the contract for maintenance and service of positive train control software and hardware. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're seeking authorization to execute amendment to an existing agreement for positive train control software. Just as a quick background, consistent with the implementation of positive train control, we originally established a contract with the OEM for various levels of onboard, specifically onboard equipment support, software, configuration management, et cetera, for that initial 5-year period. What they also do is provide us a lot of, from a service level or service level standpoint, they essentially do a lot of our onboard diagnostics and they do, it's that level of service. So here we are. What we're seeking is an additional or an amendment to that contract for an additional 5 years. Slight increase over the previous 5 years. There's some escalation that's factored into the next 5 years. I think everybody knows the last 5 years, I think the indexes have gone up quite a bit. So we're trying to incorporate that into this authorization. And there's some technology enhancements that weren't available to us before from from an onboard diagnostic standpoint, stuff that we want to take advantage for. So I just want to give you a little bit more on that. Obviously, we're in sort of between this item and the previous item, a little maintenance theme here. So, but that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Right, I did ask Mr. Dalton about, why the big increase, and I thought it was interesting that we are getting some additional computer software that wasn't available a number of years ago. So that's great. Always like to see improvements. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Karantonis votes aye.
I vote aye, yes.
Thank you. And anyone opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item D, authorization to execute a sole source contract for window gaskets for VRE rail cars. This one I thought was interesting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we like to keep it interesting. So what we seek is authorization as a recommendation state to purchase window gaskets for VRE rail cars in the amount stated in the resolution, plus a contingency. Let me just say, that seems like a pretty high number, right? But what we're doing is we're replacing all of the window gaskets, and it's a program that it's part of a life cycle maintenance program. All the window gaskets across our entire fleet of 100 cars over the next several years. Interesting meaning, let me give you a couple of stats here. We have 100 cars, 100 window kits, right? And so out of that, there's 7,648 gaskets. There's like 55,229 feet of strip filler material. And of course, there's a total of 4,448 windows that cover our 100 rail cars. So when you break it down on a per unit cost or whatever, maybe that makes it a little bit more realistic. Point is, what we're seeking is we want to go ahead and place the purchase now, even though that the delivery will be spread out over a period of time, because it is with the OEM, and just so you know, in the commuter rail car universe that we live in, if you will, there's not many suppliers. This is a custom window, and the window gaskets are customized to the window and the frame that we have. There is some proprietary type information and stuff in there, all of that to say, what we don't want to do, obviously, is go and put the wrong window gasket in, because in our environment, we just don't want windows falling out at higher speeds. So anyway, again, we'll probably a little bit more background there, but this is unique. I've never come to the operations board and asked to purchase window gaskets before. So, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it. That's my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Any questions about the window gaskets? If you read the detail of them, they are old, so they do need to be replaced. So I appreciate the additional information. All right, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please say aye if you're in favor. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Karantonis, how do you
Aye,
vote?
Madam Chair.
Okay, and anyone opposed, any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item is authorization to execute contracts for the delivery of diesel fuel for VRE locomotives. This is item E. Mr. Dalton.
Yes, Tenny, thank you, Madam Chair. Seeking authorization as stated to execute contracts for delivery of fuel for VRE locomotives. As stated in the recommendation is for two different suppliers, and both of those two different suppliers will be supplying at our two maintenance and storage facilities. One, of course, at Spotsylvania County at Crossroads, and then one at Broad Run. We did a competitive solicitation, and in the the results are in the background here. I'll just point you to the fact that one of the proposed contractors, James River Solutions, they've been a fuel delivery contractor for us the previous 5 years at our Crossroads facility. We're recommending them for to delivery to our Broad Run facility. And then the other recommendation, I just want to point you out that GPM Empire LLC, through some consolidation, or not consolidation, expansion or whatever, it's the I believe the holding company for the former Quarles, which we're familiar with, in this region and stuff like that. So both companies are not unfamiliar with us. And so just want to make that, and that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, may I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Mr. Karantonis?
I vote aye, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item F, authorization to issue a program management consulting services task order for support for the L'Enfant track and station improvements project. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as stated in the resolution, we're recommending authorization for support, if you will, for a task order with Hill, which is our program management consulting team, for the L'Enfant track and station improvement project, again, for the amount stated in the resolution plus a contingency. Just want to point out, as stated in the summary, for projects, and we've come to the operations board before, for these projects that are very, very complex, a lot of different stakeholders, have a lot of different moving parts. And the theme really is all of the projects are that we're collaborating with VRE, CSX, some cases Amtrak, we've budgeted for, and we have recommended bringing on. It's basically additional support. It helps augment our staff. And the theme, of course, is from Franconia, Springfield North. Those are very complex projects up there. 4-track projects are going on by BPRA, 3rd-track projects in some areas, just a lot going on. We just we want to make sure that we're properly staffed to handle all those different complexities. So you wouldn't see this, you haven't seen this on other projects, but again, for the projects I've just laid out, it's important that we have some additional subject matter experts, that we can pull from in order to help us successfully execute these projects. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
All right, I appreciate the additional clarification on that, Mr. Dalton. Any questions? Okay, yes, Ms. Bagley.
I'm just curious, does everybody, you mentioned the other multiple federal and district, review, are they all using their own project management teams? Is there any coordination from the project management side?
They have their own teams, let's just say. Maybe we take, entities take slightly different approaches or whatever,
But I assume Hill International is someone who's familiar to our partners on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have duplication of
Yeah,
effort.
that's a
what
little
you're
bit,
asking.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm getting at, yeah.
Okay, Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Mr.
I vote aye,
Carantonis?
Madam- I vote aye, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item G, authorization to provide a letter of support for Prince William County's U.S. Department of Transportation fiscal year 2023 AT2P as in Polly grant application. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to repeat what you just said.
Okay,
I think
thank
did a
you.
fine job. But just in summary, the next series of couple action items, we've just been approached to get your authorization for me to provide letters of support. This is one in a series here. This is specifically, I believe, for a planning effort for a rail with trail effort that's adjacent to the VRE Manassas line out there. So, and I will say that we've done some support on different levels, but any time that, particularly around these rural rail corridors, anytime that there could be, a purposeful path, if you will, for folks to take instead of trying to walk on the right of way or get in the right of way or walk on the rail and stuff like that, that's definitely something that, at least at staff level, that we support. So that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, I do want to clarify that was not a 2, that was fiscal year 23 AT Infrastructure Investment Plan grant application for the record. That was my mistake. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Carantonis, aye.
I vote aye, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Item H, authorization to provide a letter of support for VPRA's Chrissy Grant application for the Lorton to Route 1 third track and railroad bridges over Route 1. Item H, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In summary, I have nothing to add. I think in the title, that's what it says. I'm sure Mike does, so that's why I was just going
Yes.
to bail out.
Mr.
I'd like to say, I wish Mr. Stork was here. This is very near and dear to his heart. Long story short, we are, one of the phase 1 projects I talked earlier in closed session was as a Franconia project. We want to add 2 more miles to that to go from Lorton to Furnace Road just north of the Occoquan River. It adds some speed benefits, would also tackle a substandard to VDOT's standards bridge at Route 1. It's under 14 feet. They want a minimum 14 feet. It's also not very wide. It's very narrow. So if you've been on Route 1, the rail bridge there, you would understand. Mr. Stork is a big proponent of this. So I wish he was here. We're trying to get some extra money so we can basically take the current contract, and it's right now it's about 60% design, add this onto it, and hopefully have the same contractor then just add the last 2 miles. We're trying to find some money before we move to that stage of construction. So that's, I just, again, if staff could actually send this to Mr. Stork and make sure
Be great.
he's been a big proponent of us trying to get some funding. And we are working with Fairfax County for a letter of support.
All right. Any questions? Right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Mr.
I vote
Carantonis?
I
Okay.
vote aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. All right. Last action item is I, authorization to provide a letter of support for Amtrak's application for Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program funding for the Crystal City High Level Platform Project. Wow, that was a mouthful. Okay. Mr. Dalton.
Sometimes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sometimes the summary is in the title.
Exactly.
But no, thanks. This is, we've been once again asked or requested by Amtrak to provide a letter of support for the federal fiscal year 24 Chrissy program. We did, the operations board did authorize me last year to also provide a letter of support for the last cycle, was unsuccessful. But again, just for folks that don't know, at the new Crystal City station, there is going to be an adjacent, or the plans have an adjacent Amtrak high-level platform in that same station facility. That's something that's being designed by Amtrak and will be constructed by Amtrak. That's not a cost to us. We're just coordinating, collaborating with them, just like VRE is. So it is something we've supported before, and recommendation is to be able to provide a letter of support this time as well. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Mr. Dalton? All right, may I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, Mr. Carantonis votes aye. And any opposed, any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. We now have some information items. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, this is the spending authority report. If you have any questions about it, glad to answer any questions now or after the meeting. The second information item, just to tee this up, our Chief Engineer Dallas Richards is going to give a very concise, another way of saying short, presentation, update on our midday storage project. It's been a while, I think, since we've updated the operations board, and just want to kind of set the stage here. We're going to be having more discussions over the next couple of months about midday storage. So I just wanted to give you, hey, this is kind of where we're at right now, what we've been doing. Stay tuned, because that'll be part of the discussion going forward over the next couple of months. So with that, our Chief Engineer, Dallas Richards, thank you for your concise presentation ahead of time.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Appreciate your time this morning. Do you have any questions? Rich asked me to basically give an update. Many members of the board haven't seen this project. It's been around for some time. So just to give you, to give you a quick glimpse of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're headed. This project, I mean, for anyone who's parked a car in DC, you know must imagine how hard it is to park 13 trains a day in DC, which is what we do. We currently house 13 trains at the Ivy City Coach Yard, belonging to Amtrak in the city there. And we started this project in 2016 with an effort of moving out of the coach yard to another facility adjacent on the corridor, the northeast corridor, across the tracks, literally. It was identified through a vetting process as New York Avenue as being one of those places to be. The plan is to house 13 trains with an 8-car consist. In the beginning of the project, we were considering 10-car consist, and over time, shifting to a shorter consist makeup has been better, and we reevaluated that early in 2021, 22, renegotiated and worked with Amtrak on some of these things. We had an interim configuration at the coach yard that we were evaluating at the time. Basically, the project had gone on for so long that we were in a situation where we needed to move back into their yard with their equipment, and therefore we were looking for other measures to do that, to be able to vacate where we were staying, and knowing that the time it would take to build the new New York Avenue yard would take some time. And we're evaluating those still today in the presence of the Crescent track, mentioned in a moment. Currently restarting 30% design. We've re-engaged. We have had some momentum recently with our partners at Amtrak. We are re-engaging, restarting 30% design. One of the stopgap measures we've promoted and are working on right now is known as the Crescent track, which is a new track, single track to be built between Amtrak and CSX, which would house 2 trains a day, allowing Amtrak to use that the space, the track that we would otherwise negate. Basically, we move out of one track, they move into that new track so they can do construction for their new facility. We recently received a draft agreement from Amtrak and are working through those terms with them as we speak. And we haven't been able to do property acquisition historically because we did not have a project, because we didn't have an agreement per se, right? We're working on this project for some time, but having that as a going concern with an Amtrak agreement will then release us to move forward potential property acquisition and then move into final design. Coming right.
Any questions for Mr. Richards on this project? Sounds like a lot of moving parts, a lot of negotiations.
hear a lot about midday storm.
Yes. Ms. Bagley?
Does this affected, related in any way to the Union Station sort of overhaul, redesign, and?
What this project would do, it would help in a little bit of the congestion at Union Station, because we don't have, if built this way, we wouldn't have to cross the corridor to get to our current storage location. So it would eliminate a number of moves coming in and out in that way. So there's some efficiencies to that, but as it relates directly to planned improvements.
Mr. Karantonis, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the information. It's really very helpful to understand the constraints.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Richards.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Okay, now we have Operation Board Members time. We'll start over here with Ms. Bagley.
I dropped by Meet the Management in Alexandria, I think 2 weeks ago, and there were lots of VRE staff there, and that was great to see, and people asking questions about the changes to the station and service changes. So that was a really good event. And I wanted to acknowledge, I saw Nick this morning at Bike to Work Day in Alexandria at the Carlisle stop. So really appreciate seeing VRE out in my community.
It's been mentioned earlier, I just want to reiterate the invitation to the 21st Annual Manassas Heritage Railway Festival, June 6th. So all are welcome. I understand ticket buys have gone quite well.
Yeah, we're set up, we're ready to go. Let's go do this thing.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm done.
Okay,
Nothing additional to add.
I just want to thank VRE staff for helping with Bike to Work day. I attended at the Woodbridge VRE. Had a great time and looking forward to the next phases of Bike to Work. And also just want to point out that I'm loving some of the upgrades that we've been seeing. I do want to point out that our PA system needs a little bit of a refresh, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in the general scheme of things. So thank you.
Thanks for letting me be here and be part of the meeting today. And it's always great. Thanks to the staff. And I too went to Bike to Work Day in Manassas at the Manassas station. And several people had gotten on the train with their bikes. So that's always a great partnership between the different multimodal transportation, which is what this is all about. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you. One quick note, we had our finance committee meeting yesterday, which was present. Our final budget is going June 4th, and Ms. Bagley's King Commonwealth money is still in there. I thought you might like to know that. So our FY25 budget on June 4th, all looks good.
Quick announcement, OmniRide, we're redoing our Eastern Prince William County routes starting on June 10th. So very, very exciting. You're more than welcome to come up and ride and enjoy and check out the bus. I believe Victor Angry may be doing karaoke out front. I'm able from bad habits.
Fredericksburg is very much looking forward to the ribbon cutting on Tuesday, and I will be there with bells on.
Well, I am unfortunately out of town, I know. So I have sent an email to my, the rest of the board, and hopefully somebody will be there from Spotsylvania, because we certainly want to celebrate that with you. And then my other comment really is, our transportation staff is working on getting some funding through the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program for Mine Road. I am very concerned about that crossing. And I don't know, we had in the past 2 months, I think we had one fatality and another one that was able to get out of the car. And then this past weekend, we had a fatality on Route 2. And because of that, the road was shut down on Route 2. So the only way there were trains going, which cut that off. So it was a mess. But I really, I'm putting that out there. If there's any other funding that anybody knows about, please let us know, because that rail crossing, we're trying to get the quad there, but we've got to do something. And the fact that we don't have cell service even having, you can't call the number to even stop it. So there's something that somebody knows that I don't know about, or our transportation people don't know about, please reach out. Thank you.
I don't have anything other than I will be present on Tuesday to celebrate with you all down in Fredericksburg. So looking forward to that.
Miss the party.
Real quick, I did want to respond. And obviously, there's been some communication going back and forth. It's a concern for us because, you know, just to get a little bit more specific, at this particular crossing at Mine Road, if you look at the at-grade crossing incidences across Virginia, and as recorded by the Federal Railroad Administration, and then from the subsequent railroads, Norfolk Southern, CSX, and unfortunately, when we have a crossing incident, it gets recorded in there as well. But I just want the numbers across the entire Commonwealth have just been plummeting down, right? Across the Commonwealth. But when we go and look at that location, unfortunately, because in the last 6 months, it has just spiked up. And the incidents have involved, we had a couple of VRE trains towards the end of the year. Fortunately, no fatalities. But as Supervisor Hayes mentioned, there was this year has been a couple of Amtrak trains, and there was one fatality. All of that to say, we're all concerned about this. Our staff sat yesterday, we talked a little bit about just some messaging campaigns that we can be doing specifically to that. And we can, obviously, I'll keep you.
Please, anything.
Just get stuff out there because something's going on at that crossing that, you know, it was, we hadn't had anything or heard anything at that crossing for years. And I'm glad you said like quad gates and stuff. Project like at Quantico, we're putting quad gates up. Different dynamic there, but we think, and I don't mean to put words in Dallas's mouth, but we think quad gates is an answer there as well. But again, that's something that has to be worked through VDOT and all that type of stuff. But just wanted to share your concern and stuff for that. That's yeah, that's a concern for us as well. And then I just wanted to say, and every chance I get, I just want to say this, that as I mentioned before, we have a lot of stuff going on at VRE, and I tasked this staff with doing a tremendous amount. So I just want to, you know, I appreciate you guys. And we're headed into summer, we think, because we've had like 20 or 30 seasons since January, but we're headed into summer. Lots of good things going on at VRE, but lots of people to thank and give credit to, but give credit to this staff. They do a lot. I asked them to do a lot, and they're still containing me to just crazy ideas on Wednesday, but nonetheless, there's 6 other days in the week that I asked them to get other things done. But top shelf staff there, and the board should be proud that they are new.
Thank you, Rich. I would say on behalf of the entire board, we thank all of you for all your efforts. It's a tough work environment out there right now, and we're always asking more rather than less. So thank you very much. Supervisor Hayes, I appreciate you bringing that up because safety is paramount. You know, Rich even sent me a text and said, hey, I need to talk to you before the meeting today, but only if you are in a safe place to make a phone call. I thought, wow, it carries through in everything that he does. So, and being from a DuPont family, safety was number one. I mowed the grass with steel-toed shoes and wore those old safety glasses. And so when my kids would mow the grass when they were younger, I'm like, you got to have steel-toed shoes and you got to have the glasses on. And they're like, Mom, that is not cool. So I think the same way, and I echo that. So with no other business, want to say thank you for all of your efforts over the years, even though you're only here as an alternate today. Thank you for everything you did for VRE over the years, and we wish you nothing but the best after December, and who knows, we might see you before then. So without objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
That was a lot on you. A lot of reading. All those titles, you know what I mean?
Oh, right, right.
Okay.